The courtroom was already overflowing that morning, not just full, overflowing. It had that strange, breathless silence that settles over a room when everyone inside can feel that something explosive is about to happen. People sat shoulder to shoulder on the wooden benches, leaning forward, whispering behind their hands, eyes darting toward the courtroom doors every few seconds. Then the bailiff stepped forward and announced the case. Tara Collins versus Chase Langford. And the room shifted. A murmur moved through the gallery like a spark running across dry grass because the name Langford was not ordinary. In New York City, the Langford name meant money, power, glass towers, private elevators. Real estate deals whispered about in City Hall. It was a name printed on luxury developments, charity plaques, political donor lists, and buildings so tall they seemed to carve their initials into the skyline. And when Chase Langford walked into the courtroom, he looked exactly like the kind of man who believed that name could protect him from anything. He was 28 years old, tall, clean-cut, and styled with the kind of careless perfection money buys before breakfast. His navy suit looked custom-made. His shoes looked untouched by sidewalks. A diamond watch flashed under the fluorescent lights every time he moved his wrist. He didn't walk into court like a defendant. He walked in like an owner inspecting one of his properties. That was the first thing people noticed. The second was the smirk, small, controlled, almost bored, the kind of expression worn by someone who had never truly heard the word no. Not from teachers, not from police, not from employees, not from anyone who depended on a paycheck, a favor, a donation, or a connection. When Chase sat at the defendant's table, he didn't look nervous. He didn't look ashamed. He pulled out his phone. Judge Judy looked down at the file in front of her, then lifted her eyes slowly. "Mr. Langford," she said, her voice sharp but even, "you are being sued by Miss Tara Collins for property damage in the amount of $78,000. She says that you and two other individuals vandalized her cafe after a confrontation. Is that what this case is about?" Chase barely looked up. "Allegedly," he said. He's dragged the word out like it amused him. A ripple moved through the audience. Judge Judy's eyebrow moved just slightly. Not much, but anyone who had watched her for more than 5 minutes knew exactly what that meant. "Put the phone away," she said. "This is not a lounge." Chase glanced up, gave her a polished little smile, then slid the phone into his jacket. "Of course, Your Honor." His tone was polite, too polite, mucking polite. Across the aisle sat Tara Collins. She was in her early 40s, wearing a modest blouse, her hair pulled back, her hands clasped tightly in front of her. She looked exhausted in a way that makeup could never hide. Not weak, not broken. Just tired from fighting a battle that had already cost her too much. But there was something else in her face, too. A quiet fire. The kind people get when fear has already taken everything it can, and there is nothing left to do but stand up. Judge Judy turned another page. "The report says that on March 21st, Mr. Langford entered your business with two companions. An argument followed. Items were broken. You say he threatened your employees and said his father owned the block. Mr. Langford, do you deny that?" Chase leaned back. "Your Honor," he said with a soft laugh, "this is being made into something much bigger than it was. My friends and I stopped by after hours. Maybe a chair got knocked over. Maybe a table moved. Accidents happen. I offered to pay that night, but Miss Collins decided to dramatize the situation. I think once she realized who I was, she saw an opportunity." Judge Judy looked at him without blinking. "You offered to pay?" "Yes, I don't see proof of that." "It was a conversation," Chase said, shrugging. "Not everything needs paperwork." Then he smiled again. People like her tend to exaggerate once a Langford is involved. The courtroom reacted instantly. A low sound moved through the gallery. Tara flinched, but she stayed silent. Judge Judy's pen stopped moving. Slowly, she looked up. "People like her?" she repeated. Chase gave a lazy shrug. "I meant small business owners. They're always looking for someone to blame when business gets difficult. It happens all the time." Judge Judy said nothing, and somehow that silence was worse than shouting. The room tightened around him. Her pen tapped once against the desk. Then she turned to Tara. "Collins, tell me what happened." Tara inhaled. At first, her voice trembled. "He came in around 10:30 at night. We were closing. The espresso machines had already been cleaned. My manager told him politely that we were closed, but he laughed. He said, 'Do you know who I am? My family owns this building.'" She paused and swallowed. "When my manager still refused, he got angry. He knocked over a chair. Then he pushed over one of our display stands. We asked him to leave. He told us we would regret it. The next morning, the front windows were smashed. Judge Judy turned back to Chase. "Did you threaten her?" Chase chuckled under his breath. Your Honor, people say things when they're irritated. You'll regret it is just an expression. Do you have evidence that you did not return and damage the property? Chase's smirk widened. Do I need evidence to prove I didn't do something absurd? My father's lawyers already dealt with the police report. There was no evidence connecting me to anything, so I'm honestly not sure why we're here. That sentence landed badly. Even his attorney shifted in his chair. Tara lowered her eyes, fighting tears. Judge Judy closed the folder. I decide what is worth this court's time, Mr. Langford. He tilted his head. Of course, Your Honor. I didn't mean anything by it. I only think we should be efficient. I have a meeting in Midtown after this. Judge Judy stared at him. You'll be late. The audience laughed softly. Chase did not. For the first time, the smirk slipped. His jaw tightened. His pride had been touched, and the room could feel it. I hope you understand, Judge, he said, his voice colder now. My father and I have contributed generously to a number of city programs, judicial scholarships included. The bailiff's head snapped toward him. The audience gasped. Even Tara looked horrified. Judge Judy leaned back. Is that right? Chase shrugged like he had simply stated a fact. Yes, so let's not make this personal. This is just a misunderstanding. You handle much bigger matters than this. The silence after that was heavy. Judge Judy folded her hands neatly in front of her. People like me, she asked. Chase smiled, still not understanding the danger in front of him. Come on, Judge. You've probably seen my father's name on donation plaques. He helps keep the system running. We are all part of the same machine. And then he said the words that changed everything. Relax, Judge Chase said casually. I own half this city. Technically, I own you too. The room froze. The audience gasped so sharply it sounded like the air had been ripped out of the walls. The bailiff went still. Tara's eyes widened. Judge Judy didn't move. Not at first. For 3 long seconds, she said absolutely nothing. Her face did not show fear. It did not show confusion. It showed the stunned stillness that comes right before fury becomes disciplined. The hum of the lights seemed louder. Chase sat there, still wearing that arrogant half-smile, completely unaware that he had just stepped over a line he could never uncross. The sentence hung over the courtroom like smoke. I own you. It echoed without being repeated. Even people in the back row seemed afraid to breathe. The bailiff had shouting defendants, crying plaintiffs, angry exes, professional liars, and people who treated court like a stage. But even he looked stunned. Judge Judy remained motionless. Her fingers rested lightly against the bench. Her face was blank in the most dangerous way possible. When she finally spoke, her voice was quiet, too quiet. Would you care to say that again, Mr. Langford? Chase lifted his chin. He mistook her calm for softness. It wasn't an insult, he said. It's reality. Langford Development, Langford Equity, Langford Energy. My family funds this city. We sponsor programs. We build courthouses. We invest in the infrastructure people use every day. He gestured toward the ceiling as if the room itself were his possession. So when I say I own you, I don't mean you personally. I mean the system, the buildings, the institutions, the world around us. It all runs because of Langford money. The gallery stirred. Tara stared at him as though she couldn't believe he was still talking. Under her breath, she whispered, He's really saying this. Judge Judy's eyes stayed locked on him. Mr. Langford, she said, every word clipped cleanly. This courtroom runs on something your money does not purchase. She leaned forward. Truth. Then her voice sharpened. And you are about to discover how costly lies can become. But Chase was not finished humiliating himself. He leaned back, relaxed again, almost theatrical. Your Honor, I think you're taking this too personally. I didn't come here to offend you, but let's be honest. You don't actually believe she has a real case, do you? My father already handled police matter. It was closed. No charges. No proof. This is just good television. That last phrase changed the atmosphere again. Good television. As if Tara's ruined cafe was entertainment. As if a courtroom was a studio. As if justice was something he could laugh through. Judge Judy leaned forward, both hands on the bench. Let me make something clear, she said. This is not television to me. This is a courtroom. This is justice. I do not pretend. I do not perform. And if you came here looking for a stage, you have chosen the wrong room. For the first time, Chase's confidence flickered. Only for a second, but everyone saw it. His eyes moved to his lawyer. The lawyer did not look back. Judge Judy opened the file again. You said your father handled the police report. I have read that report. I have also reviewed additional evidence submitted by Ms. Collins. She turned slightly. Ms. Collins, explain what happened after the incident. Tara tightened her hands together. After he left, I filed a police report. They told me they would investigate. 2 days later, I got a call saying the case had been closed because there wasn't enough evidence. But when I went to retrieve our CCTV footage, the files were corrupted. She took a breath. Later, I learned that someone connected to Langford Property Management contacted my landlord and said, our security system should be replaced as a courtesy. The system was removed the next day. Judge Judy's expression sharpened. You are saying your evidence disappeared? Yes, Your Honor, and I have the email showing the maintenance request. The bailiff took the papers and handed them to Judge Judy. She read quickly. Langford Property Management, she said aloud. Approved by Executive Operations. Then she looked directly at Chase. That is your father's company. Chase shifted in his chair. We manage thousands of properties. I don't personally approve maintenance orders. Judge Judy looked over her glasses. Interesting. Moments ago, you owned half the city. Now you can't account for one security system. Which version of you should I believe? The man who controls everything or the child who knows nothing? A few people in the courtroom laughed under their breath. Chase's face tightened. You think this is funny? He snapped. Do you even understand who my father is? Judge Judy's answer came instantly. No. The room went quiet. And that is your problem, she continued. You have spent your life walking into rooms where everyone cared far too much. The words hit him hard. Chase blinked. For once, he had no immediate comeback. Judge Judy continued, her voice lower now. I know exactly what you are, Mr. Langford. You were raised to believe your last name is armor. That money can remove consequences. That influence can erase records. That silence has a price. But this room, she gestured around the courtroom, this room is where your father's money stops at the door. Tara's lips trembled. Thank you, she whispered. Judge Judy turned to her, softer now. Don't thank me yet, Miss Collins. Justice is not applause. It is restoration. Then her attention returned to Chase. Influence may buy quiet people. It will not buy me. I have watched entitled men walk into this courtroom before. Some of them left wiser, some left poorer. The difference is whether they learned to listen before the consequences arrived. Chase scoffed. You really think a speech changes anything? This is a show. You lecture, the audience reacts, I write a check, and tomorrow my father fixes the noise. That is how the world works. Judge Judy's eyes darkened. You think justice is noise? She paused. Then you have never heard it properly. The courtroom became still. Even Chase's lawyer leaned back as if he no longer wanted to be associated with the table. Judge Judy flipped another page. When she spoke again, her tone was almost surgical. Mr. Langford, you may believe you are untouchable. But every empire built on arrogance eventually collapses. And when the foundation is entitlement, it usually collapses from the inside. Chase tried to speak. You can't talk to me like, oh, yes, I can, she snapped. Because the second you entered this room, you stopped being a Langford and became a defendant. In this courtroom, your name is irrelevant. Your behavior is not. Then the gavel struck. We will take a recess. And Mr. Langford, I suggest you spend that time thinking very carefully about who truly owns what. The camera held on Judge Judy's face. She was not smiling. She was not angry in the messy way people expect anger to look. She was controlled, cold for phagist. The exact expression she wore when someone's carefully polished mask was about to be removed in public. Outside the courtroom, the whispers began immediately. Did he really say that? He told her he owned her? Did you see her face? But the audience did not understand yet. That silence from Judge Judy had not been shock. It had been calculation. The storm had not passed. It was just beginning. When court resumed, the entire room felt different. The careless energy Chase Langford had carried in with him was gone. No more smirking. No more lazy confidence. No more glancing around like the room belonged to him. He sat hunched over now, whispering sharply to his lawyer. His foot tapped under the table. His jaw clenched. His eyes kept moving toward Judge Judy, then away again. The bailiff announced the court was back in session, and the crack of the gavel sliced through the room. Judge Judy looked up. Mr. Langford, she said calmly, I trust you used the recess to consider your earlier remarks. Chase forced a smile. Yes, Your Honor. I understand that my words may have sounded harsh. I apologize if anyone interpreted them as disrespectful. Judge Judy tilted her head. If, he hesitated. I didn't intend disrespect. Sometimes people confuse confidence with arrogance. Judge Judy repeated the word. Confidence. Her voice carried a trace of cold amusement. Confidence usually comes from achievement. Arrogance comes from entitlement. Let's determine which one we are dealing with. She opened the thick folder in front of her. Before this hearing, I requested additional documentation. You claimed there was no evidence connecting you to the damage at Miss Collins's cafe. You said it was misunderstanding. You said the police matter was handled. Correct? Chase nodded quickly, relieved to be back on what he believed was safe ground. Yes, exactly. My father's attorneys cooperated fully. The matter was closed. Closed, Judge Judy said. She lifted a printed document. Not resolved, closed. The courtroom quieted further. According to Midtown Police Department records, the case was marked closed due to insufficient evidence. 2 detectives assigned to the matter were reassigned shortly afterward. 3 days after that, Langford Development Group made a $75,000 donation to the Midtown Police Pension Fund. The room seemed to lose oxygen. Chase froze. His lawyer shifted, but Judge Judy looked at him before he could stand. Don't bother. I obtained this through public records. Chase gave a weak laugh. That's philanthropy. My father donates constantly. Judge Judy leaned forward. Philanthropy that arrives 3 days after your problem disappears. Tell me, Mr. Langford, does your family's generosity always appear so conveniently beside legal trouble? The audience murmured. Tara gripped her hands together, hope rising across her tired face for the first time. Chase's jaw tightened. This is ridiculous. You can't accuse my father of. I am not trying your father, Judge Judy cut in. I am examining your conduct. And your conduct so far suggests privilege, evasion, and arrogance. She turned to the bailiff, Exhibit C. The bailiff placed a small flash drive on the desk. Judge Judy nodded toward the monitor. This is surveillance footage from Miss Collins's insurance provider, not from her landlord. It was backed up automatically to the cloud before the security system was removed. Chase's face changed. Not dramatically, not yet, but the color left it. The monitor flickered on. The footage was grainy but clear enough, a nearly empty cafe. Chairs stacked, lights dimmed, employees closing for the night. Then the door opened. Chase Langford entered with 2 companions. There was no mistaking him. Same posture, same expensive suit, same entitled energy. He appeared intoxicated, waving his arms, pointing toward the counter, shouting at someone off camera. An employee approached. Chase shoved a chair. A display rack toppled. Glass shattered, then his voice carried through the audio. My father owns this block. You'll regret this. The room went silent. Completely silent. The video ended. Judge Judy looked at him. That was you. Chase swallowed. I was upset. They were rude. Stop. The word cracked across the courtroom. That is enough. She closed the file with a hard snap. You damaged a woman's business because your ego was bruised. You threatened her staff. Then you hid behind your father's name and money. Tell me something, Mr. Langford. What is your dignity worth? The cost of a window? A police report? Another person's silence? His attorney leaned forward. Your Honor, this line of questioning is entirely within my authority, Judge Judy said sharply. Sit down. He sat. Judge Judy looked back at Chase. You came here expecting a performance. You believed this was another room where your father's money could manage the script. But this is not theater, Mr. Langford. This is real life. And in real life, people do not applaud villains. The audience did applaud softly anyway. Judge Judy let it pass. Then she turned to Tara. Ms. Collins, I want you to understand something. People like this protect reputations, not character. And sometimes the wall around that reputation cracks. Tara wiped her eyes. Yes, Your Honor. Chase's voice came quieter now. You don't know how this works. My father fixes things. He'll make it right. Judge Judy's reply was cold. No, Mr. Langford, I will make it right. She let the sentence sit. You have lived as though power means never having to apologize. But power is responsibility, and you have shown none. She looked down at the file again. Before I move toward judgment, I want something on the record. You said you own half this city. Perhaps your family owns a great deal of property. But today, you are about to lose something money cannot restore. She looked directly into his face. Credibility. The bailiff stood rigid beside the bench. The camera caught Chase staring at the table, pale now, lips pressed tight. The heir who had entered believing justice could be bought was beginning to understand that he could not even borrow it. When Judge Judy returned from chambers later, the courtroom felt heavier. The lights buzzed above. No one whispered now. Every person in the gallery watched her as she took her seat, because her calm had become terrifying. She looked composed, almost serene, but that serenity had the pressure of thunder behind it. Chase Langford looked smaller than before. The expensive suit was still there. The watch still glittered, but the man wearing them had changed. Exposure does that. It shrinks people who were inflated by illusion. Mr. Langford, Judge Judy began, before I issue my ruling, I am going to give you one opportunity to explain something. Chase straightened, gripping the table. Your Honor, I think this has gotten out of hand. I said I was sorry. The whole situation was misunderstood and exaggerated. I never meant to offend anyone, especially not you. If my words came across wrong? Judge Judy cut in. Her voice snapped through the room. You told a sitting judge that you owned her. You mocked a business owner after damaging her property. You relied on your father's influence to bury a police report, then called it charity. And now you want to reduce all of that to a misunderstanding. The audience murmured again. Chase swallowed. You don't understand. My father expects these things handled quickly. He doesn't tolerate bad publicity. Bad publicity, Judge Judy said. She leaned forward. You mean consequences. That sentence hit harder than a shout. You have spent your life surrounded by people paid to clean up your wreckage. I am not on your father's payroll. I do not care whose name appears on buildings, plaques, or donor walls. I care about truth. I care about respect. And you seem unfamiliar with both. She motioned to the bailiff. Supplemental exhibits. He handed her another folder. It was thick, stamped with a tab marked confidential background. Judge Judy flipped through it. It appears this is not your first problem. Chase blinked. What? 3 years ago, Miami. Disorderly conduct. Charges dropped shortly after a donation to a city revitalization fund. 1 year later, Chicago. Assault allegation at a private club. Case dismissed after the complainant withdrew. Last summer, the Hamptons. Hit-and-run accusations settled privately. She looked up. Do you notice a pattern? Chase opened his mouth. Nothing came out. I will tell you what I noticed, Judge Judy said. I see a young man who was taught that laws were obstacles for other people. I see what happens when wealth shields misconduct instead of correcting it. I see a system that too often rewards influence and punishes honesty. And I see that illusion ending here. Tara sat frozen, tears shining in her eyes. The room watched as accountability took shape. Chase tried again. Judge Judy, with all due respect, do not use that phrase, she snapped. You have shown no respect at all. Her voice rose, not wildly, but with authority. You think money is power. But power without character is corruption. And corruption eventually meets a wall it cannot buy its way through. Chase's lawyer leaned toward him, whispering urgently. Chase ignored him. You're making an example out of me, he said. This is for television, for your audience. You can't humiliate me just because people want drama, Judge Judy answered instantly. I do not humiliate people, Mr. Langford. People humiliate themselves. I simply hold up the mirror. The gallery erupted. Applause broke out. This time, even the bailiff seemed in no hurry to stop it. Judge Judy waited. Then she turned back to Chase. You said you own half this city. Tell me something. How much will you own when your reputation is gone? When investors see who represents the Langford name? When the public sees what happens when your arrogance is placed under oath? Chase looked pale. Sweat glistened at his temple. His voice dropped. You don't know what this will do to me. Judge Judy's eyes hardened. What this will do to you? She pointed toward Tara. What about what you did to her? Tara's voice broke. He destroyed everything I worked for. Judge Judy's hand came down against the bench, not as a gavel, as a punctuation mark. You entered a woman's business. You damaged her property. You threatened her livelihood. Then you used influence to bury her complaint. And now your concern is how accountability affects you. Chase looked around the courtroom. For the first time, he seemed to realize there was no one coming to save him. No assistant, no father, no private security, no donor plaque, just him. And the truth, Judge Judy's voice softened, but only slightly. You cannot buy respect. You cannot purchase dignity. You cannot rent humility. You cannot invest your way into decency. These things have to be earned. She paused. And you have earned none of them today. The room went utterly still. Judge Judy closed the folder. You said you owned this city. But cities do not remember only the men who own buildings. They remember the people who build with integrity. And right now, Mr. Langford, all you have built is a monument to shame. She leaned back. I have seen thieves, liars, manipulators, frauds, cowards, and bullies in this courtroom. Very few have disgusted me. Her gaze did not move. You are now among them. The gavel struck once. I am ready to issue my ruling. Everyone leaned forward. Tara wiped her face. Chase stared down at the table as if it might open and swallow him. The Langford name, the thing he had worn like armor, suddenly looked less like protection and more like a cage. Judge Judy adjusted her glasses and spoke into the room. This court finds in favor of the plaintiff, Miss Tara Collins, and against the defendant, Mr. Chase Langford. She paused. But the damages in this case are not only financial, they are moral. And with that, the ruling began. The ruling that would not just end a case. It would break the illusion that had carried Chase Langford his entire life. Judge Judy's voice was steady, but the whole courtroom could feel the force beneath it. Chase sat completely still now. His fingers moved against the edge of the table. His eyes were fixed on the bench. He looked like a man waiting for a sentence that might reach beyond money. "Mr. Langford," Judge Judy said, "you entered this courtroom believing your wealth could insulate you from the truth. You treated this hearing as an inconvenience to be managed, not as a legal proceeding. But justice has a longer memory than privilege." She turned to the papers before her. "You will pay Ms. Tara Collins the full amount of documented property damage, $14,600. In addition, I am awarding $25,000 in punitive damages for malicious destruction, intimidation, and abuse of influence." Tara covered her mouth. Chase's lips parted. "And," Judge Judy continued, "I am referring this matter to the district attorney's office for review regarding potential interference with evidence." Chase shot upright. "You can't do that. This is small claims." Judge Judy looked at him coldly. "It stopped being small when you tried to use money to make truth disappear." The courtroom gasped. Tara's hand trembled against her mouth. Judge Judy continued, "You believed that telling me I own you would intimidate this court. Instead, it revealed exactly who you are. You confused wealth with power. You confused power with immunity. But the only thing you truly own today, Mr. Langford, is your conduct. And conduct has consequences." Chase's lawyer stood. "Your Honor, we will appeal." Judge Judy turned her eyes toward him. "You are free to spend your client's money however you like, but the record exists, the evidence exists, the footage exists, and perhaps your client should learn one simple lesson from today." She leaned forward. "Cameras do not take bribes." A low laugh moved through the room, then vanished as Judge Judy continued. "Do you know what offends me most, Mr. Langford? Not your arrogance. I have seen arrogance for decades. What offends me is that you were given every advantage: education, opportunity, influence, access. And you used those advantages to make life harder for people with less power than you." Her tone lowered. "You had every door open, and you chose corruption." Chase's voice was thin now. "You don't know what it's like. My father expects things from me. He doesn't tolerate mistakes." Judge Judy's face hardened. "Then perhaps he failed to teach you how to face them." The line cut through the courtroom like a blade. No one moved. Even Chase seemed struck silent by it. Judge Judy stood from the bench. That alone made the room tense. She rarely needed to stand, but now she did. And when she spoke, it no longer sounded like a ruling. It sounded like a warning. "You told me you owned me. Now look around this courtroom and tell me what you truly own." She let him sit with it. "Not the building, not the cameras, not these people, not this court. What is left? Mr. Langford?" Her voice became quieter. "From where I stand, I see a man whose money cannot purchase 1 ounce of respect." Chase's eyes glistened, though he tried to hide it. His jaw tightened. "You think this changes anything?" he muttered. "The media will move on. My father will fix it." Judge Judy leaned closer. "No, they will remember." She paused. "You will become a warning, a story people tell when they want to explain what happens to someone who believes money makes him untouchable." She lifted the gavel, but she did not strike it yet. "You claimed ownership over everything. After today, you will understand ownership properly. You own this verdict. You own your disgrace. You own the moment you looked at a judge and declared yourself above consequence, only to discover you were not." Then the gavel came down. The sound was final. Thunder and wood, the courtroom erupted into a low wave of stunned reaction. Some people clapped. Some whispered. Some simply stared. Tara Collins began to cry quietly, not from weakness, but from release. Months of humiliation, fear, and exhaustion broke open in that moment. Judge Judy looked at her and gave the smallest nod. "You stood your ground," she said. Tara wiped her eyes. "I didn't think someone like him could ever be held accountable." Judge Judy's expression softened. "They can. But it takes someone brave enough to stop being afraid of their name." Then she turned to the bailiff. "Escort Mr. Langford out." Chase stood slowly. The arrogance was gone, completely gone. The same man who had walked in as if the courtroom were beneath him now looked like he was trying to disappear inside his own suit. As he passed the bench, he glanced once at Judge Judy. His mouth opened slightly, but no words came. For the first time, Chase Langford had nothing to say. The cameras caught his face. That was the moment people would replay later. Not the insult, not even the verdict. That face. The face of a man realizing that an empire can shake in a single afternoon. As Chase left the courtroom, whispers followed him. "I own you. The phrase had already transformed. It no longer sounded powerful. It sounded foolish. Within hours, the clip would spread everywhere. The icy stare, the billionaire's son, the ruined cafe owner, the sentence that turned his arrogance into a public warning. Headlines would explode. Billionaire's son tells Judge Judy he owns her, then she destroys him in court. Late-night hosts would replay the footage. Commentators would break down every second, the smirk, the pause, the footage, the verdict. Memes would appear showing Chase before and after the ruling, his grin fading into panic, captioned with lines about what happens when money meets a judge it cannot buy. But the real power of that moment was not the entertainment. It was the revelation. Millions of people watched a woman with less money stand against a man with more influence than she could ever imagine. And for once, the room did not bend toward wealth. It bent toward truth. Judge Judy sat back down. She did not celebrate. She did not gloat. She never needed to, because justice does not require applause. It only requires courage, evidence, and one person's willing to say no when everyone else has been paid to stay quiet. She looked once more toward Tara Collins, then toward the empty doorway where Chase Langford had disappeared. "Court is adjourned," she said. The gavel struck one final time, and that was the sound that ended the myth. Not that rich men can fall. Everyone already knows they can. But that sometimes, in the right room with the right truth, they fall in front of everyone.